So those 6 cities are analyzed a little bit more in depth with the exhibition. What I want to just briefly run through is kind of one of the themes that's evolving with the way that I'm looking back and starting to unearth the layers of Branner. You kind of, as you're traveling, stuff gets kind of very deep, and it takes apparently this lecture and thesis to kind of unearth some of it. And so I'm trying to pull out some themes that run between all the projects and understand how these might inform a larger discussion on the landscape space in the city. And I think the word is probably a little bit overused now in the school, but I'm really interested in landscape urbanism and how the processes of landscape, such as habitat distribution and flows of energy and nutrients in a system, can inform urbanism. And I think the critique, at least with the landscape urbanists, is that urbanism now is a really closed, hierarchical formal system that doesn't really allow for the expression of individuality, of ecology. And so there's people talking about how to change that. So you can see my Branner as a way of kind of opening up a dialogue with how in a forced condition against the river, how that ecology that exists and that's strong interfaces with the city. And I want to pull out some of these themes and apply them to the larger field of landscape architecture. So obviously, rivers are typically treated as corridors that go through the city. The edges are a buffer zone, and they provide an alternative route through a city. This is in Japan, in Nagoya. And the rivers there are really strongly marked by this kind of open space along their flood zones. And this is I think everyone's probably familiar with the use of rivers in cities like this. They're corridors, they're recreation zones, they are flood management areas. And, but I wanted to kind of challenge this, not challenge, but I wanted to look beyond this kind of these parallel organizations of a city's infrastructure just along the river, using that buffer zone just to organize it. And I think that there could be a much more healthy approach that's a little more fragmented. So this is just going through the system of the parallel system I'm calling. It can be quite nice. This is in the Rio, Spain. It's a lot of open space collected along the river. It provides for the line of trees in the middle. It provides habitat. It provides a place for floods to happen. And yet it provides, not quite for sports, but for relaxation and recreation. But it's this the same organizational system can be used for roads and for sidewalks, and it starts to really cut the river off from the city. And this is the typical condition you get, and this is the extreme. When you take us to the extreme, you get the LA River, where you have the characterization of a river as just another piece of infrastructure, and it gets lined up with everything else, and it's completely inaccessible. And this is really the condition of that water's edge in a lot of cities, that the ecology of the river, the dynamism is really contained in that channel, and it doesn't really express itself in the public space of the city. So I wanted to see if there was, I looked for an analog to this, which is just a riparian zone as it naturally works, where the health and the function of this ecology happens in the section. The distance from the water informs how this landscape works. Right? So you have some plants that like water close to the river's edge, plants that don't, moving farther away. It's really all these things added together that creates vitality, even though this creates a population size. It's this that creates the function in that landscape. And I'm really looking for parallels in urbanism. two that I'm kind of zeroed in on, two cities. They're not one of the 6 main cities, they're side cities that have this this kind of perpendicular orientation to the waterfront, which I think is more successful at pulling some of that dynamism, some of that flux and this of the ecological system back into the city. So this is a city in the Amazon, right on the, obviously this is actually it's Rio Negro right here, and it's connecting up with the other rivers to make the Amazon at the confluence right below the pink box. This is a capital city along the Amazon. I think it has about 1.5 million people, and it has this crazy seasonal tide change of about 10 meters, going from where you see the boats at low level to 10 meters above that, which is about where the city wall is above. So you have this completely, this landscape based on extreme change. And I was interested in how the city and how the systems of the city dealt with that change. One is technical. You have a lot of floating ramps that are hinged and floating and can respond to that change pretty quickly. But the other is kind of more informal, and it talks about people making space on the river when they can and moving up when they can't. And there's a lot of commerce that happens in that space, and this kind of energy and organization that is really just momentary. And you have it connected to the city through these tunnels almost. That when the water comes up, these tunnels act like canals, and they draw in all that commerce moves into the city and starts to populate the center of the city. So you have this kind of edge condition which moves back and forth with the flow of water. I feel like you guys have my lips every time I talk. This is